first thing I'm thinking I might look at in terms of making sure that this image is making complete use of the dynamic range is, of course, the histogram. As I mouse across the histogram, I'll see that, for instance, at the left-hand edge, blacks are highlighted, followed by shadows, exposure in the middle, highlights almost at the right-hand side, and whites at the very far right-hand side. In fact, often what I'll be thinking about looking for is a way of getting a little bit more out of the tonality, and so adjusting exposure to begin with. Just going to undo there. One way I can do that, which is pretty fancy, is to actually click in the histogram. And because I've got the exposure segment selected in the middle there, I can see that that's what's changing downstairs. I'm just going to reset that to 0. Okay, so often the first thing that I do look at is, or it pays to look at, is whether or not we can get any more out of the exposure. And as we've seen with using levels and so on curves in Photoshop, is keeping an eye on the histogram is the key thing. This is a reasonably high key image. There's a reasonable dynamic range, but it looks like we can get some more. So I'm going to start off just by dropping away some of the exposure and giving myself something nice and even, like negative 0.5, which represents, in terms of a camera, half a stop of exposure adjustment. Adjusting the whites slider is going to have me focusing on the very brightest parts of the image, so I can see when I'm in the histogram the whites are right at the right hand end, and I'm just going to drag the whites value back, not terribly far, maybe 20 or 25, whatever it takes to get rid of that little highlight. And I can see that there is still just a tiny lack of detail there, but I'm pretty happy that I'm going to settle for that.